How's it going, everybody? It is Prashan here. We have another cop or drop video. Cop means that you should do anything in your power to get this card because it's going to give you the dubs that you need in ladder and in conquest. Or it could be the exact opposite. It could be a drop. It could be a complete dud, and it's something that you wasted your resources on, and it's not meta changing. It doesn't provide any value to the decks that are currently in Marvel Snap. So we do have Hydra Bob dropping this week in the spotlights. So we're going to go over all the cards that are dropping in the spotlights just in case you don't hit on Hydra Bob. Is there value somewhere else? And then we'll go over all the synergies, counters, and some decks just in case you do get Hydra Bob that I thought that he might fit into. So let's get into Hydra Bob. Hydra Bob is a 1/4 and he reads, after each turn, this moves if a player snapped, which I'm pretty confused on. I'm probably making this video way too early because we haven't seen the developer update yet. But of course, I just wanted to make this video and put this out for you guys. So I am confused in that aspect. So if I put down Hydra Bob on turn 1 and snap on turn 1, does he move? And then after each turn, this moves if a player snapped. So can I put this down turn 1, snap, and he just moves throughout the game just because I snapped? Or do I put him down once, snap, and then he just moves once, and if my opponent snaps, then he moves again? That is what I'm confused about on this card. I think if you play him once, snap on turn 1, I think, and he moves every single turn after then, I think that might be pretty cool. But if it's only one time, I don't think it's worth it. But his old text before, when he was data mined back in like April, read, after each turn, move to another location if you're losing here. I thought that was a better text than the text that it is currently. So we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure how the mechanics go. I'll probably ask later in the creator chat or something to see if that actually is what it means. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys assume that this text means? Because I don't know. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but let's see. But if you don't hit on Hydra Bob, we do have other cards that are in the spotlights that I think are pretty good. So we do have Nebula and Galactus that are dropping as well. Nebula is probably one of the better one-drops in Marvel Snap. And then we have Galactus. Galactus is such a polarizing card that's been nerfed a few times already just because how bad it felt when you lost against it. So I think if you don't have Nebula or Galactus, I think this is a good chance to get them. And of course, if you only have one spotlight key, you only have a 25% chance of getting the card that you want. So I always suggest that you try to get 4 spotlight keys to get the card that you want, actually, right? So 4 spotlight keys, 100% chance of getting the card that you want. And if you only have 1, there's a 25% chance. And if you have the tokens, maybe you use your tokens, but I personally wouldn't use tokens on this card. But if you want the variants, you use your tokens to get Hydra Bob, and then you use your keys to get the variants, right? So let's go over some of the synergies that I feel that work with Hydra Bob. So here are some of the synergies with Hydra Bob. Khazar is the obvious one, right? So Hydra Bob is a 1-drop. Khazar boosts 1-drop. It only makes sense. The next one I have is a little weird and spicy, just depending on how the text works with Hydra Bob. Craven. So I think Hydra Bob and Craven could get tons of value and tons of power if Hydra Bob just keeps on moving into that location. If you have Hercules on the board too, I think it could cause a lot of craziness, and I love decks that have a bunch of randomness and craziness. That way your opponent doesn't know what's going on. You barely know what's going on. And then lastly, I think Cerebro. I think you could put Hydra Bob into a Cerebro 4 deck, and it might be able to work. If not, I don't see that many other synergies that I could see Hydra Bob in. If you guys know, let me know down in the comments. And then, of course, we have counters for Hydra Bob, right? So I think if you have Kingpin on the board, obviously if he moves into the Kingpin lane, then he's donezo, right? Like, no point. You have lost your point of playing him. I think, of course, the obvious one is Killmonger. So Killmonger does kill Hydra Bob as well. And I think bad locations, right? I think if you snapped and if there's bar with no name and he just moves into bar with no name, that sucks. That is a bad feeling. So those are some of the counters and some of the synergies that I found. Obviously, there's probably a bit more. Of course, let me know down in the comments. We'll all talk about it. We'll workshop this together, right? So let's go into some of the decks that I created with Hydra Bob. So here is the first deck. I have a C4 Bob deck. It has Hawkeye, Hydra Bob, Shadow King, Cerebro, Mystique, Jean Grey, Makari, Absorbing Man, Moon Girl, Miss Marvel, Claw, and Sarah. So basically here, yeah, everything is a 4 cost. We have Shadow King just in case we have like bad locations or something. I think I could probably swap out Absorbing Man and put in Luke Cage for those bad locations too. We have Miss Marvel just for some cheeky wins, as well as Claw. Sarah, that way we could play a few more cards on the final turn if we need to. We have Mystique to copy our Cerebro, or to copy Miss Marvel or Claw, which I think is pretty cool to do. And of course, we have Hydra Bob, Hawkeye could get up to a 4 when you play a card after. So that is pretty much it for this deck. I think it's pretty decent. I don't think it's like game changing or top tier. I think it'd be fun to play. Typically, when a new card comes out, I try to reach infinite with a new card just to challenge myself or try to be creative. And I think this is one of the decks I would probably try to play to get some wins. So next we have here is a deck I called Ring Around the Rosie. Just for the funs and the giggles, we have Kingpin, Hydra Bob, Martyr, Craven, Silk, Hercules, Polaris, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Miles Morales, Arrow, and Magneto. So this is basically something to have fun with. I don't know where my cards are going. I don't know where their cards are going, but it would be fun to see just things moving around, right? Going crazy on the board. So awesome to see. I think it'll be pretty funny to play, to be honest. Like, especially Arrow. I think Arrow doesn't have the value or like she used to be, but I still think she's a very disruptive card. I think maybe even Juggernaut. Juggernaut might fit into this deck as well, just to like for the giggles, just to move things around. Or Stegron. Stegron would be cool. Cannonball would be cool. I just want to move my stuff around, and I want to move my opponent's stuff around, just for the funs. And then lastly, we just have Zoo. I think you could just put Hydra Bob into a Zoo deck, and he'll just fit in just fine with other Zoo cards, right? So those are the decks that I made with Hydra Bob. So is he a cop or is he a drop? Hydra Bob is a drop. I think there's too many questions on this card. Like, I have no clue where to rate this or put this. Like, the text I think is horrible. I still don't know, or unclear. I haven't seen the video, the developers update video, so we don't know. And it's just weird. I just don't think you should waste your like assets on this card. I think there's so many other good cards that are dropping this season or upcoming season in Marvel Snap. So, and as well, if you don't have a season pass, make sure you look at my Gwenpool video as well. That way you guys know how to enter, because I'll be choosing the winners on Monday. So that is it for Copper Drop. My first drop of a card, right? We had Arishem, we had Gwenpool, but Bob is a drop. So be safe, keep on snapping, and peace.